Then on Sports Central, we go over a college football game preview and prediction on the big matchup coming up here in week 1 of this 2022 college football season. And it's going to be the Notre Dame Fighting Irish and the Ohio State Buckeyes top 5 matchup coming up here in week 1. And this is definitely a matchup that could have some long-term impacts and some college football playoff implications. So definitely a crucial matchup as we head into week 1. We'll be going over a full game preview and prediction on this matchup here today. Games will be on Saturday, September 3rd in Columbus. Ohio State's the home team for this matchup, and it's in a night game. 7:30 p.m. Eastern is the kickoff here. Spread's going towards Ohio State 15.5 points. So Ohio State is heavily favored in this matchup, especially for being a top 5 matchup. I mean, Ohio State being ranked 2nd, Notre Dame being ranked 5th. You'd expect the spread to be a bit closer, but it's 15.5 towards Ohio State. And I think, the home field advantage for Ohio State, having this game at home in Columbus in a nighttime setting, it's definitely a huge advantage for Ohio State. Plus, there's no doubt there's a lot of hype around Ohio State and CJ Stroud and this football team to be a major contender to win the national championship this season. Over-under is 58.5, and your FPI is going Ohio State 83.5%. So Ohio State is across the board pretty heavily favored here. Series history, Ohio State leads at 4-2. Win streak is Buckeyes by 4, and the last game was in 2016. So hasn't been too many years since we last saw these two teams play each other, but at the same time, they've only played 6 games total between each other. Your stat comparison for this matchup, these are your 2021 stats by rank, so these are out of 130 teams in the FBS. No doubt both these teams were excellent across the board last season. Notre Dame 19th in points per game, 15th in points allowed, 20th in pass yards a game, 83rd in rush yards, and for yards allowed, 64th in passing, 37th in rushing. So overall, solid stats for Notre Dame. This is a team that defensively was very stout last season. And offensively, they were very good statistically in the passing game, top 20, and 83rd in rushing. For Ohio State, 1st in points per game. So statistically, Ohio State was the best offense in the country last year. And, there's reason to see why. CJ Stroud and, Jackson Smith, Njigba, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, that trio in the receiving corps was nothing short of just outstanding last season. And, Jackson Smith and Njigba is still coming back. He was the top of the 3 last season. And he's coming back along with C.J. Stroud and Henderson from last season. He was excellent as well. So, this is an Ohio State team that was just excellent on offense last season, to say the least. And, they were 3rd in the passing game, 47th in rush yards a game. So, offensively, this team was great last year, and I expect that to continue going into 2022. They got plenty of depth. And Ohio State, I wouldn't be surprised one bit to see them at number 1 once again in points per game. When we're talking next offseason. 38th in points allowed per game last year, so defensively not terrible. 97th in pass yards allowed and 28th in rush yards allowed. Some key points for this matchup. Notre Dame 11-2 last season. Jack Cohn is gone. Tyler Buchner is taking over at the quarterback position, which we haven't really seen him play too much. I think that's another reason why Ohio State is such a favorite in this matchup. It's not only the fact that they're the home team in this matchup in a night game, and the talent, obviously, for Ohio State being a team that is widely considered one of the 2 main teams that could win the national title this season. Tyler Buchner, really, we haven't seen him play too much, so we don't know too much about him. Even though, I've got no doubt that he's a talented quarterback, but there are some question marks there. They lost a couple of key players, but they got some great depth, no doubt about that. So for Notre Dame, this is a team that should be once again, a pretty solid team next year. Brings up the question, potential national contender in 2022. This is a team that's ranked in the top 5 in the preseason, so they're expected to be a contender. And I think personally Notre Dame is a team that they've got a chip on their shoulder with, obviously the Brian Kelly situation, which was a huge controversy at the end of last season, and I think Notre Dame is going to really want to fight for what happened at the end of last season. So. Notre Dame 11-2 last year, solid season, and this is a team that I expect to be right back up there once we get towards the end of this season. Ohio State, they got C.J. Stroud, one of the elite quarterbacks. I really think, there's 2 quarterbacks that are simply outstanding in college football this season. Your top 2 are in a tier of their own, and those are C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young from Alabama. Stroud is a player that we didn't see much going into 2021. So, for him to have as outstanding of a season as he did in 2021, his ceiling is very high going into 2022 here. They lost their receivers in Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, but they're still fine. They got Jackson Smith and Njigba, and plenty of depth. And, I mean, Ohio State, there's no doubt this team is a major favorite to win the 2022 national title. There's a reason why Alabama and Ohio State are ranked in the top 2 in the preseason, and that's because these two teams, I mean, looking at their off seasons and looking at who they're losing, who they're returning, I mean, Ohio State is a team that looks stacked going into this 2022 season. But that said, let's get to the prediction here for Notre Dame and Ohio State. Pretty big matchup here. I mean, this is a game that's got some college football playoff implications, and it's only week 1. There's always 1 or 2 matchups in week 1 that are just crucial, and this is without a doubt one of them. And in the end, I'm going to go with the Buckeyes to get the win here. 31-20 is my predicted final score. I just think Ohio State in the end is they're just too good of a team in a nighttime setting, in a night game, in the shoe, in a very tough place to play at night, especially. And Ohio State with C.J. Stroud, and I mean that offense, they're going to be firing on all cylinders here. And in the end, they get off to a decent start. I think Ohio State kind of runs it from there, 31-20. So I do think Notre Dame puts up a fight here. I don't think they get blown out, and I, in fact, am expecting Notre Dame to cover the spread here. But in the end, I just think I am pretty comfortable picking Ohio State in this matchup. I just think the Buckeyes are, I mean, once again, C.J. Stroud, much more comfortable picking an Ohio State team that I know has got good experience and obviously tremendous potential going into the season. With Notre Dame, though, I mean, Tyler Buchner at quarterback, I mean, we just haven't seen him too much. I mean, he could turn out to be just an outstanding quarterback for all we know, but we just haven't seen him too much yet. So, I mean, for him, this is quite a first game as a full-time starting quarterback here for him. I mean, you're going into Columbus in a huge game in week 1 at night. It's going to be tough on him and tough on Notre Dame's offense, I think, at times. And in the end, I'm going to take the under for this matchup and Notre Dame to cover, but Ohio State wins this one in the end, 31-20. Once again, pretty comfortable picking Ohio State in this matchup. I honestly would be very surprised if Notre Dame pulled the upset here. But in the end, yeah, Ohio State 31-20. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below on this matchup. And I appreciate you guys watching as always. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. Catch you on the next one.